Genesis, the first book of the Bible, is a wonderful book. A book about origins. In this third video I would like to take a look at day 2 to 5. And last time we took a look at how God defines a normal day, an evening and a morning. And day 2 to 5 are referred to as a second day, a third day, etc. Let's read it. In Genesis 6 verse 10 to 6 to 10. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament," or actually better, expanse, "in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament or expanse and divided the waters which were under the firmament or expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the firmament or expanse heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. A second day, I should say. Then God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear," and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself, on the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the third day. A third day, it actually says. On day 2 it seems that God doesn't do anything new. But that's not quite true. On the first day we saw that God not only made light, but also separated the light from the darkness. And now we see another separation day. The separation from what is above the expanse and what is below the expanse. But first God made this expanse. And translations differ here. As I read firmament, that's what we often find. But expanse is better than vault or firmament. Because the idea of a firmament being firm comes from the Greek translation, the Septuagint, of the Hebrew Old Testament. While the Hebrew word here used, rakia, refers to something flexible which has been stretched out. Isaiah stated 5 times that God stretched out the heavens like a tent. Let's read one of these times in Isaiah 40 to verse 22. There we read, Isaiah 40 verse 22, we read halfway, "Who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in." And we find it 4 more times in Isaiah and also in the book of Job, in the Psalms, Psalm 104, verse 2 for instance, twice in Jeremiah and also in Zechariah 12 verse 1. So this idea of a firmament is a bit of a wrong idea. It's really expanse like a tent stretched out. He did this with his understanding, his hands, his fingers, as we can read in these diverse scriptures. He did it very fast, in only one day. Some scientists state that this super fast process solves the problem of the enormous age of the universe, because time is relative, as the relativity theory of Einstein points out. And this theory can be used to show that the further away you go from the Earth, if the Earth is in the center of the universe or close to it, the quicker the clock will run. So we can do calculations, and with these calculations we can somehow prove that what is 6,000 years from the beginning of the creation up till now about on Earth is billions of years in the end of the universe, in the faraway stars. So they can be billions of light years away. So the time is running much faster on faraway stars. What we don't find on day 2 is it is good comment. But on day 3 we find this. So let's take a look at day 3, because there separation continues. The oceans and dry land, these are separated. And then we have it postponed, so to speak. It is good. 2 separations, waters from waters and waters from land. And here we see it is good. And then we have the plants. The plants on earth, plants and trees. And they have a wonderful design. The solar powered plants have a wonderful design. We try to have solar power in our solar panels, but well, that's a very rough kind of design compared to what the plants do, with a much higher efficiency. And maybe he also produced bacteria and fungi on this day. We don't know. He doesn't say anything about it because we don't see these bacteria, and maybe the fungi like the toadstools, etc., and the mushrooms are well reckoned among the plants. Well, why did God do this? First of all, these plants are very important for our food and for our oxygen. So we can keep on breathing oxygen and using it. And also the animals will use it in the same way. And bacteria and fungi, well, these are also very important in our digestive system, are very important also in our way we deal with immunity, by the way. And of course the fungi are also very important in the whole ecosystem of the soil especially. And we can praise the Lord for this wonderful design of plants, bacteria and fungi, and the more we discover about it, the greater the Lord becomes. So the earth brought forth all kinds of plants as God commanded, and God saw that it was good again. And then we have the 4th day. And on this 4th day, let's read it, what happens on this 4th day. In verse 14 we read, "Then God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament," or expanse, we should say, "of the heavens to give light on the earth," and it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, that's the sun of course, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth and to rule over the day and over the night and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the 4th day. Sun, moon and stars were made especially to signify, to mark day and night. Sun, moon and stars. Days, months, seasons, years, they mark these. So we know what is what and when is when. But the sun is not to be worshipped because the Lord himself made it. Even in the night, there will be some light. God will see to that. It will hardly ever be fully dark. Even in the night, God will send stars or the moon. And that's what we also see in our personal lives and in history. God always provides some source of light even in the darkest moments. And we can, of course, also navigate using the sun by day and the stars by night. So the seasons stem from creation, which implies that the earth had a tilted axis already, which has many advantages. For instance, lesser differences in temperature between poles and equator. Yes, I know some creationists used to think that the earth didn't have a tilted axis at the beginning, but here we see that the seasons are already marked out from creation. The sun was made by the Lord as a full-grown and stable source of light. We have a helium core in the sun, and that's essential for this purpose. And it seems to be a design feature. God also had made a wonderful variety of stars. I already put on these verses of 1 Corinthians 15, where Paul says that star differs from star in glory. Yes, that's what we can see. We can see differences in color, for instance, and they also are in huge number. God tells us that it cannot be numbered, and we know that now. Because when Abraham took a look at the universe, at the sky, trying to count the stars, maybe he could count about 1,000 or 3,000 stars. And there are many more. In Genesis 15, the Lord says it, and Jeremiah 33, it says that a host of heaven cannot be numbered, just like the sand. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man, that you are mindful of him? And man here is Enosh, the mortal man, and the son of man, Adam, that you visit him. So he saw God's glory in these heavens. How excellent is your name in all the earth, who have set your glory above the heavens. So he looked and he said, okay, God's glory must be even greater than the heavens. God saw that it was good. And let's take a look what this wonderful scientist Newton said. He wrote, this splendid system of sun, planets and comets can only find its origin in the counsel and authority of an intelligent and mighty being. Of course he meant God, because he was focused on that. Then day 5. Let's read about day 5. Day 5, it says in 1 verse 20, then God said, let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament, expanse of the heavens. So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. So the evening and the morning were the 5th day. The 5th day with the living creatures filling the waters and the air. There are so many different creatures, living creatures in the waters, and of course also in the air. And they are created after their kind. That also applies to the plants, by the way. We read that. Plants were also created after their kind, and it will also apply to all the animals on the land. The land animals will also be created after their kind. It means from a cat you will also always get a cat. What kind of cat? Well, it could be a bit different between different cats, but it's a cat. That's what you recognize. You recognize the type of animal you have in front of you. Whether it's a fish or what kind of fish, what type of fish. A shark is different from, for instance, a tuna. So there are different types, and that's what you also see in birds. Different types of birds. Finches are different from hawks, for instance. But whether you have a sparrowhawk or a goshawk, well, you recognize it's the same type of bird. And it's created after their kind. That's what the Lord does. But what he has also done, a wonderful design, given all these kinds a multifunctional genome. That's what we are discovering more and more. The more we know about our genes, about our DNA, the more we discover it's multifunctional. Meaning it has the ability to adapt. And there can be said so much about it. I won't do this in this video, but there's so much ability to adapt without, by the way, changing kind. It won't change kind. It will stay the same kind of bird. But it can adapt to different circumstances. And that's logical, because it was to fill the waters, it was to fill the air, and it was to fill the whole land. So if we speak about the animals in day 6 or the plants in day 3. It was to fill every nook and cranny, you could say. Every different ecosystem has its, different varieties within a kind. That's what we see. Because the multifunctional genome has this ability to adapt. That's a wonderful trait we have. And if you take a look at different cats, you'll see that. You will recognize in all these different species of cats, it is a cat. Whether you have a lion, a tiger, an ocelot, or a house cat, for that matter, you will recognize it is a cat. And it's a wonderful feature, a wonderful design feature. For more, see my website. And on the 5th day, you will have also this wonderful design of the birds. And the birds are very special. Very, very special. By the way, when we speak about birds, then we speak about winged creatures. So that includes the bats and also the flying dinos. If you think about the bats, you think about echolocation, which is also present in some of the sea animals like the dolphins and whales. But if you take a look at the flight, how this works, I always find it very wonderful to take a look at a small bird alighting on a branch of a tree. So gently. So, very special if we take a look at how they do this. They jump up and they fly away and land a moment later, fluttering with their wings and exactly knowing what they do. Flight is very wonderful. We could speak hours about it. And then the lungs of the birds. These are very special. The type of lungs birds have we don't find anywhere else. It's hard to imagine that these lungs would stem from, for instance, reptile lungs, or would have the lungs of mammals would have the same origin as the lungs of birds. It's hard to imagine. They are so different system altogether. But a wonderful system and adapted to the flight of the birds. Birds are wonderful. And of course the multifunctional genome and the ability to adapt, we find that there also. Different types of birds with different abilities to adapt to different environments. It's wonderful to take a look at all these design features. We will acknowledge God as their maker and designer. And He is way above them, even above these wonderful big dinosaurs. We can't even imagine how it would be to meet these. Well, God speaks about it to Job in Job 38 to 41, especially 40 and 41. He speaks about two types of dinosaurs, big ones. And of course, For God, these are only tiny animals. But because He's so way above them. But up till now, we haven't seen the King of creation yet. The Creator has shown Himself in His ability to produce so wide a variety of stars, of plants, of birds, of fish, and all kinds of other animals. But who is to be their master? And that's what we'll see in the next day. A special being will be crowned as the steward of the creation. That's man. So look forward to the next video about day 6, about the creation of man. Wonderful to look forward to. It's a wonderful thing. Genesis, the book of Genesis, how it all began. Amen.